Swami iti namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini. Nirvese Sasuyavadi Pasachanti Satarini. Panchakalpatarvyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Ivacha. Itanam Pavinibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Ukam Karoti Vajalam Panglagayate Grim Yat Kripata Mahavande Shri Guru Dina Taradam Paramanam Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Akanda Mandarakaram Yaptayana Chara Charam Tapadam Dashitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Narayana Namaskritya Narachaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashtapraya Sabadresu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
This thing.
So, can I share the screen? Yeah.
Yes, I've already make you co-host.
Okay. So, I think we are starting from text 40.
I think we finished text 44.
44.
45. We will start.
Okay, 45. Yeah, 45. So 45 says, Tasmi vimana utkrishtam sayam rati karim sritaha na chabudyata tam kalam pratyapi china sangataha. Translation: in that aerial mansion, Devahuti, in the company of her handsome husband, situated on an excellent bed that increased sexual desires, could not realize how much time was passing. So on the slide it says, the illusion of sex pleasure. Oh, Krishna. Sex indulgence is so enjoyable for materialistic people that when they engage in such activities, they forget how time is passing. Saint Kandarma and Devahuti, in their sexual indulgence, also forgot how time was passing by. So the intoxication nature of material sex life is mentioned here. Even for such an exalted, saintly person like Kandarma Muni, who had practiced yoga for many, many years who actually achieved the perfection of yoga, and we can see the display of his perfection in two levels. He was so expert in yoga that he attracted the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kadarma Muni attracted Lord Vishnu to his hermitage because of his devotional service. And the Lord descended from the spiritual sky on the shoulders of Garuda. And the Lord was so moved by his devotion that the Lord shed tears of love, and those tears formed the Bindu Sarovar. So we can imagine the devotional service of Kandarma Muni. He was able to attract Krishna, Lord Narayan, to his hermitage. And the Lord was so affected by his devotional service that the Lord shed tears. That is what we are all hankering for. As devotees, we are praying that the Lord will give us his mercy by showing us a sign. Kadarma Muni has already got a sign. The Lord descending right in front of him and had an exchange. There was a conversation between Kadarma Muni and Lord Narayan. That's the first level and the best level, actually. That's the best level of the Lord reciprocating with him. When we are able to satisfy the Lord in such a wonderful way, the Lord reciprocates with the devotee. So that is what every devotee is aspiring for, to have some reciprocation with Krishna, some reciprocation with the Lord. Kadarma Muni already got that. The second level of his yoga perfection is his ability to manifest the 7-story alien mansion. And then manifesting the 1,000 celestial ladies within the house in the water, which were later transferred into the palace, into the flying aerial mansion. And in the company of these 1,000 celestial ladies, Kadarma Muni traveled throughout the whole universe with his wife. So we can see the perfection of his yoga in 2 levels. One level is his manifestation of the yogi powers, and even superior to that is his ability to attract the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet, when the wife demanded for procreation, Kadarma Muni got lost in his sexual escapades. He got lost, for many, many years. He and his wife were enjoying sex life, and they did not even see how time was going. So therefore, sexual indulgence is very intoxicating. Why? Because it's just the opposite of what is called the adiraj or adiras. Adiras. The adiras, which is the original taste, the original bliss, the original enjoyment the living entity has with the Lord. It is converted into material sense. And so because that original taste, original bliss of Krishna consciousness is so intense, is so pleasurable, the opposite of it, which is the material sex, also has some degree of intensity that keeps the living entity entangled. So it is said that the shackles of sex life is the bane of the living entity. As soon as one is able to give up sex life, he breaks loose, he breaks away from the shackles of the material world. Material energy uses the shackles of sex life to keep everyone imprisoned. If you remember the story of Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami was the son of a landowner. There were two brothers, but their only son was Raghunath Das Goswami. But when Raghunath Das Goswami met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was so attracted to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wanted to leave home and join Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the two brothers, they were not happy with it because that was their only son who would have to inherit the property, the landed property that his father and uncle had. But Raghunath Das Goswami wasn't interested. His only interest was to be with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when the parents got to know this, they were looking for a solution, how to solve this problem. So the mother of Raghunath Das Goswami, he suggested, let's see, there is nothing more powerful, there is nothing more entangling, there is nothing that can chain this young boy down than to find him a beautiful wife. And we find a beautiful wife, a girl as beautiful as Sachi Devi, the wife of Indra. That is the only shackle that can keep this boy at home. And so they agreed and they looked for the most beautiful young girl within their community. And they got this girl married to Raghunath Das Goswami. The Raghunath Das Goswami had already tasted the sweetness of Krishna's association, the sweetness of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's association. So that beautiful wife they brought could not have any influence on him. Raghunath Das Goswami, he still left home and escaped and went to Puri to join Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when finally it was known that Raghunath Das Goswami had left home despite his beautiful wife, then the mother said, well, it means this boy cannot be kept at home. If he could not be chained by this beautiful girl, if he could not be chained by sex life, then what else can chain Raghunath Das Goswami? So their effort was useless. And Raghunath Das Goswami escaped home. So this adiras, the original relationship between the living entity and the Supreme Lord, is such a sweet relationship. But when the living entity leaves the spiritual world, that adiras is converted into Maya adiras. And that Maya adiras is sex life. So That is why sex is so pleasurable in this material world. It's so attractive in this material world. It's so intoxicating in this material world. And the whole material world is running on the energy of sex. If you take sex life out of this material world, nobody will work. Nobody will do anything. Everybody is struggling just because they want to please their sex partners and enjoy sex. Except for the devotees who are working for the interests of Guru and Krishna. Everybody else is working to please their sex partners so that they can enjoy sex. The man works hard to please his wife so that he can get sex satisfaction. The woman works hard to satisfy the husband so he can get sex satisfaction. So the goal of all hard work is to get some sexual satisfaction. So here, that satisfaction is displayed, that even such exalted personalities like Kandaraba Muni, he and his wife were so involved in sexual activity that they did not even see how time was passing. So one who is able to give up sex life, he has already escaped material existence. It's very important. And that's why sannyas life is so important. Anyone who rises to the level of a sannyasi and has given up sex life, he is worshipable because he has broken away from this chain, material chain that keeps everyone in the material world. Because a brahmachari who is also aspiring, who has given up sex life and is aspiring to take sannyas, or even remain brahmachari for the rest of his life, he's also glorious because he has also broken the chain that keeps everyone in this material world. Equally, vanaprasthas who have given up sex life and they are just living with their wife like a sister, like a friend, he's also broken the chain of sex life. And so all such people, they are eligible to escape the material chain, which is in the form of sex life. So we go to the next verse, which is 46. Somebody wants to read 46?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Go ahead, 46, go ahead.
Evam Yuganu Bhavaina Dampatyo Ramana Nayo Satam Yatiyo Sarada Kamalala Sayo Manaha. While the couple who eagerly longed for sexual pleasure were thus enjoying themselves by virtue of mystic powers, the 100 autumns passed like a brief span of time.
You can read text 48. I mean 47, 46, go to 47.
Okay. Tasyam adata ratasam babayan atmana atmabdi noda vidaya rupam swam sabapa sankalpa vibhu. The powerful Karamuni was the knower of everyone's heart, and he could grant whatever one desired. Knowing this spiritual soul, he regarded her as half of his body. Dividing himself into 9 forms, he impregnated Devauti with 9 discharges of stamina. Hare Krishna.
You can read a slide.
Okay. Kadavamuni exhibits his yogic powers. Since Kadavamuni could understand that Devauti wanted many children, at the first chance, he begot 9 children at one time. Is described here as the bull, the most powerful master. By his yogic power, he could at once produce 9 daughters in the womb of the Bhakti.
Yeah, thank you, Hare Krishna. So, Kandarma Muni is a Prajapati. Prajapati means an empowered living entity who is their job is to produce progeny, increase the population of the universe. So it's a Prajapati. Swayambhuva Manu is a Prajapati. Even Brahma is a Prajapati. Shiva is a Prajapati. Daksha is Prajapati. These 9 sages, they are all Prajapatis. So they were all empowered to increase the universal population. And so such Prajapatis, they are so empowered that he can expand himself and give 9 seeds to his wife, Nevahuti. He gave 9 babies at once. And Nevahuti delivered 9 babies. So this is described as part of the yogic powers of Kandarma Muni. And therefore it's described as Vibhu. Vibhu means an empowered person. He's empowered to do what he did. So it is interesting how Kandarma Muni is able to execute this feat of expanding himself into 9 forms, and each of them discharging semen into the wife to produce the 9 children, 9 daughters. It's amazing. Of course, it is said that Nevahuti wanted many children at once because she's a Prajapati also. She wanted many children at once. And her husband could understand, my wife wants many children at once. So therefore, he expanded himself into 9 forms. And each of these 9 forms discharge semen. So it is a sign of empowerment. Only such Prajapatis who are empowered to do these things, they can do it. If one is not empowered, how can he do it? It's just like the wives of Kasyapa Muni. Kasyapa Muni is also a Prajapati. And he married 17 daughters of Daksha. And each of them brought forth different living entities. Some were mothers of snakes, some were mothers of birds, some were mothers of trees, some were mothers of scorpions, some were mothers of insects, and so on. So how was that possible? Only by empowerment. They are empowered to do like that because we don't see these things today. It's not ordinary business. Nobody can just do it. unless one is empowered. So Kadaramuni is empowered, and therefore he could expand himself into 9 forms. And with those 9 forms, he impregnated the wife 9 times. And the wife delivered 9 beautiful daughters who became the wives of the 9 sages who are always giving Brahma advice. So that is part of the perfection of Kadaramuni, part of his yogic perfections. If there are no comments, we'll go to text 48. Somebody can read 48.
Can I read, Maharaj?
Go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Right.
Ata sa susave shushuve sadyo devahuti striya praja sarvasta charu sarvagyo lohitotpa lagandharya. Translation: immediately afterward, on the same day, Devahuti gave birth to 9 female children, all charming in every limb and fragrant with the scent of red lotus flower.
Slide.
Yes, Maharaj. Gender determination during sexual intercourse. It is said in the Smriti Shastra as well as in the Ayurveda that when the discharge of the male is greater, male children are begotten. But when the discharge of the female is greater, female children are begotten. It appears from the circumstance that Devahuti was more sexually excited and therefore she had 9 daughters at once.
Yeah, so there are rules. There are rules for begetting male or female children. Materialists, they don't know this, but the students of the Vedic literature, they know this. It is mentioned in the Smriti Shastra. Smriti Shastra includes Manu Samhita. It is mentioned, excuse me, somebody is calling. Hare Krishna, Hare Padasinam. Hare Krishna, I'm in class. What is it?
No, I met the Mataji, and very soon we move from here.
Okay, all right. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
I will. So there is the Smriti Shastra talks about how to produce male children or female children. The Ayurveda also talks about how to produce male children or female children. There is also a scripture called the Linga Sarira. It also talks about how to produce male or female children. That is all on the same principle, that it depends on the discharge of the discharge of the partners. If the female discharge is more than that of the male, the children will be female. And if the male discharge is more than that of the female, the children will become males. And if you look at it, even in a physical world, when one is able to keep his one refrains from illicit sex as a young man until he meets his wife, most probably the first child will be a male. because he has accumulated all his strength all the time until he meets the woman. And so naturally the first child is a male. It happens like that. But in the case the man is flirting around with so many women, he doesn't have that strength, and he cannot discharge as much. So when he meets the wife will overpower him in the discharge. And obviously you see that many of the children will be females. In fact, in some families, they just have only females. So it means that the man is flirting. It means the man is not faithful. It means the man is wasting his semen somewhere. And so when he meets the wife, he doesn't have enough semen to produce a boy. So these things are there. They're practical situations we can see. So the Vedas does not keep quiet on these subject matters. The Vedas explain these things. So if one wants to produce a baby boy, he must conserve his semen so that when he meets the wife, then obviously he would discharge more semen. But if the man is flirting around, then obviously he will not have enough semen, and the woman will overpower the man, and all their children will become females. So this is what is happening. Devahuti was more, she was more sexually inclined than the husband. The husband is a yogi, so his interest in sex was less. That is the situation here. Even though Kandarma Muni has been celibate all along, but because he had less interest in sex life, Devahuti overpowered him. And so as a result, 9 female children were produced. So this is the science of child gender, how to produce a specific gender. Of course, the karma of the child also plays a role. The karma of the child coming also plays a role, because to be a male or female is also based on our previous karma. So when there is an opportunity for a female to be born, then Daivan trainer, by arrangement of providence, by arrangement of nature, specific souls are attracted to the womb of the mother. So all this come into play. It's an intricate science that our modern scientists, they cannot comprehend it. They only talk about chromosomes, XY chromosomes. The man has XY chromosomes, the woman has XY chromosomes. So according to our modern scientific theory, when the man and the female the semen and the X are combined, then the chemistry of the chromosomes, they pair up. And where there is XX, there is a male. And where there is YY, there's a female. So that is how modern science explains the gender of the child. It's that it's all by chance. They are the chance philosophers. It's all by chance. It is called in mathematics, what do you call it?
Probability.
Probability, thank you. Probability. Probability. They even have formulas for working out the probability of a certain things happening. So they say it's probability, but we don't believe in probability. Everything is by arrangement. There is nothing probability. Everything is by arrangement. Everything is working under superior authority. Divine trainer, divine intervention, divine arrangement, superior arrangement, providential arrangement. That is there. But for the scientific world, because they don't understand these subtle laws of nature, they try to postulate. They try to come up with some thesis to explain the occurrences, but sometimes their laws do not apply. So it is not just based on the XY chromosomes. There is more to that. Anyway, so Devahuti is more sexually inclined, sexually excited, and therefore she, even though the husband multiplied himself into 9 forms, yet she could not overpower Devahuti because Devahuti was very excited. And generally, women are more excited in sex life than men, generally. Yeah, generally. Generally, that's why I said a woman is 9 times as lustier than a man. And the same thing with food also. Women also eat more than men. They like to eat very regularly. A man may eat once or twice in a day, it's okay. But a woman has to keep eating and eating and eating all the time. It's also the same. It's a sexual hunger and stomach hunger. A woman has more sexual hunger and stomach hunger than the man. That is how their bodies are created. So anyway, here Devahuti has demonstrated the degree of lust harbored in the body of a woman. And that degree, when it's manifested fully, then he overpowers the husband, and the children are bound to be females. So that is the Vedic version of gender of children. We can go to text 49. Somebody like to read 49? Tamal, you want to try?
Prabhuji, you are muted.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, 49.
Okay.
Patasa Prabri Jesyantam Tadalak Yoshati Bahi Smaya Manolo Labana Idayani Idayina Vidoyata. Translation. When he saw her husband about to leave home, she smiled externally, but out of heart, she was agitated and distressed. Yes, right. Kadamamoni finished his household affair quickly by his mystic power. The burden of the castle in the air, traveling all over the universe with his wife in the company of beautiful girls, and begotten of children were finished. And now, according to his promise to leave home for his rare concern of spiritual realization after impregnating his wife, he was about to go away. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Kadamamuni sets the example for householders. Kadamamuni finished his household affairs quickly by his mystic power. So Kadamamuni is a certain example for householders to follow. Now one must finish his household life as soon as possible, as quickly as possible, and turn to the real business of perfecting oneself in Krishna consciousness. So as soon as Kadamba Muni was able to fulfill the desire of the wife by taking her around the universe and then bringing her back to their cottage and then giving her 9 daughters, Kadamba Muni was ready to retire back to his original way of life, to his austerities and yogic practices. So this is the Vedic order of life. One goes to the Gurukula at the age of 5, and he stays with the Guru for 20 years, where he's trained to develop integrity and character. At the age of 25, he leaves the Guru Ashram if he wants to get married. Then he goes back home with the permission of the spiritual master. He goes back home. And then he gets married. A suitable wife is arranged by the parents. Then, after 25 years of marriage, one is supposed to have a grown-up son. And at that age 50, one is supposed to be considering taking the Vanaprastha ashram, Vanaprastha life. So Kadamba Muni is following this Vedic system. As soon as his wife got pregnant with the 9 daughters, actually, the very day she was pregnant, I think the very day she delivered. Her own is a very special arrangement. The same thing happens to the demigods. Demigods don't keep pregnancy like our Burloka citizens. The Burmandala citizens, which the earth is one of them, pregnancy is kept in the womb of the woman for a period of 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months before the child is born. But in the case of the demigods and the case of Devahuti, as soon as the woman is pregnant, he delivers. And in fact, the children also grow up in the same way. They don't have to wait to become, for years, no. The pregnancy takes place, childbirth takes place. As soon as they are born, they grow up into full-time women, and they were ordered, Brahma ordered Kadamba Muni to marry them off to the 9 sages. Brahma brought the 9 sages to the ashram of Kadamba Muni and ordered Kadamba Muni to marry these 9 daughters to the 9 sages. So everything goes very fast in the life of exalted personalities. In the case of the demigods, they don't have to go through. Childbirth is a very difficult process, especially in Burloka. 9 months of trouble. The mother has to go through trouble for 9 months. Such a punishment. Among the demigods, they don't do that. As soon as they get pregnant, they deliver immediately. And when they deliver, they don't have to nurse the child, buy tampons, breastfeed the child, do so many things for long, long periods of time. No. As soon as the child is born, he grows up into an adult. the same day. So that is the difference between human beings and the demigods. And some of the human beings, they're also empowered to have these experiences. So Kadarma Muni and Devahuti, they were actually in the category of demigods. So their pregnancy, deliverance, and the growth of the children was very fast. Everything happened very wonderfully. So, so that is with Kandharma Muni. But the principle is that one should be prepared to leave home. That's the principle. The principle is one should not die as a householder. One should give up family attachment and before death, because if there is attachment, then that is likely to bring you back to the material world. So therefore, the Vedic tradition, the Vedic literature advises that at a certain age in life, one must give up family life and live a life of seclusion. In our case, a life of a preacher, a traveling monk, and preaches Krishna consciousness throughout the world. In this way, one doesn't have to think of his immediate family anymore. He thinks of the whole world as the family. So Kadarma Muni is setting an example here for householders, and we all have to meditate on it as we grow and we engage in our household responsibilities. We must also be thinking that someday I will have to leave home and devote my life fully in the service of the Lord.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Some question?
Yes, sir. Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, what is your question?
So, in lieu of this type of a circumstance, I think today we should all be thinking of taking more interest in taking care of our temples. Because in this age, if we live at home, we cannot go into the forest. But if temples are available, then it can facilitate this idea of living family life and then take to spiritual life or Vanaprastha or Sanya. I don't know if I'm correct, Maharaj.
I understand you. It means that we should have more temples in our zone or across the world, so that when devotees leave home, they can take shelter in these temples. I think that's what you mean.
That's exactly what I mean, Maharaj.
Yeah, I understand. So that's true. And that's why Prabhupada actually established this movement. He established this movement to create the devotee association for all different kinds of practitioners. For the brahmacharis who want to, live a life of renunciation and dedicate their lives for the service of the spiritual master. And then the Vanaprasthas who may want to leave their family homes and then live in the temples and preach, as well as the sannyasis. They can all take shelter in these temples get the association of devotees, and make their lives perfect. Because in this age, forest life is not practical. In fact, you cannot even find a suitable forest. All the forests are destroyed. And even if there are forests, you may not be able to find the fruits and roots and leaves that can sustain your life. So a Mahaprabhu's movement is not meant for going to the forest. Mahaprabhu's movement is meant for preaching. So therefore, if we give up family life, the real forest is to travel and preach. So these temples are meant to be places where all these categories of renunciates can take shelter. The brahmacharis, the vanaprasthas, and the sannyasis, they can take shelter. Of course, the grihasthas can also take shelter. The grihasthas go to the temples to associate with devotees, to hear from devotees, to worship with the devotees, to sing and dance with the devotees, to render some service. And in this way, they also gain positive association. So the temple is designed to give such wonderful association to all classes of people, all classes of devotees. So yes, we have to expand our temples, open more temples, so that in the future, there can be enough places for our vanaprasthas and sannyasis to stay or travel and preach. We have to do that. Okay, so we go to text 50. Somebody want to read text 50?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes. Likanti adu mukhi bhumi pada mukha mani shriya yuvacha lalitam vacham dirodyasru kalam sanai. Translation. She stood and secreted the ground with her foot, which was redrent with the luster of her gem-like nails. Her head bent down. She spoke in slow with a slow yet charming accent, surprising her tears.
Slide.
The slide. The devotee was so beautiful that her toenail appeared just like pearls, and as she scratched the ground,
It scratched
the ground, it appeared as if pearl had been thrown on the ground. When a woman scratched the ground with her foot, it is a sign that her mind is very disturbed. Those signs were sometimes exhibited by the gopis before Krishna. When the gopis come in the dead of night, and Krishna asks them to return to their home, the gopis also strike the ground like this because their mind were very disturbed. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here, Devahuti, because the husband has announced his departure from home. The husband has finished his business of giving these 9 daughters to Devahuti, and he had announced his departure. So Devahuti is scratching the ground. She's looking to the ground and scratching the ground with her toenails. So, which is indicative that she was disturbed. It says she stood and scratched the ground with her foot, which was radiant with the luster of her gem-like nails. Her head bent down, she spoke in slow yet charming accents, suppressing her tears. So Devahuti is in tears because the husband wants to leave. Naturally, no woman wants the husband to leave home because the husband is a shelter. For a woman, she always needs shelter. Shelter of the father in her youth, her childhood, shelter of the husband in her youth, and shelter of the grown-up sons in her old age. They always need shelter. So when she saw that Kadarmuni was about to leave home, she was unhappy. And therefore, she is looking down and scratching the ground with her toes and with tears in her eyes. So, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that when a woman scratches the ground with her foot, it is a sign that her mind is very disturbed. And these signs were sometimes exhibited by the gopis before Krishna. When the gopis came in the dead of night and Krishna asked them to return to their homes, the gopis also scratched the ground like this because their minds were very disturbed. So that is the nature of women. If their minds are disturbed and they are unhappy about certain things, they just look down and they begin to scratch the ground with their toes and they begin to shed tears, indicating that they are not happy with the circumstances, indicating that they have a lot of mental disturbance with the situation at hand. So here, Devahuti is not happy that her husband wants to leave home. She's not happy that their relationship is about to end. Of course, we shall discover the real reasons why Devahuti is putting up such a show. He told the husband that you want to leave home, but you have not given me fearlessness. You promised me fearlessness, but you have not given me fearlessness. Meanwhile, you want to leave home. Everyone in the material world is fearful. What will happen tomorrow? What will happen next year? So material world is characterized by fear because of the unknown. We don't know what is going to happen. So we're always fearful of the unknown. So Devahuti was fearful of the unknown. And therefore, we will see that he requested a husband to take away this fearlessness. Take away this fear by awarding her fearlessness. And then he could go. So we will see either towards the end of this chapter or early next chapter, we will see Devahuti asking the husband for fearlessness. I think towards the end of this chapter. So we'll go to text. Of course, here is also mentioned the beauty of her toenails. That she was so beautiful that her toenails appeared just like pearls that were scattered on the ground. So we've already heard about the beauty of Devahuti. She was so beautiful that Vishwavasu, one of the Gandharvas, was flying over the palace of Swayambhuva Manu, and he observed the beauty of Devahuti, and he became so absorbed in her beauty that there was a plane crash. He fell out of his plane and crashed to the ground because he was too absorbed in the beauty of Devahuti. So here, a glimpse of that beauty is being described by her toenails, that she was so beautiful that her toenails appear like pearls. We all know pearls are very beautiful, pearls are very dear. Pearls, they are not easily obtainable. And so comparing her toenails to pearls is just to give us an idea of the beauty of her toenails, which indirectly or directly gives us an idea of her beauty, her bodily beauty. She was so beautiful that every aspect of her body was beautiful. So, really text 51. Somebody like to read 51?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I think Salika Prabhu has not read.
Krishna.
And then
Okay.
I keep trying to put they have not read. So one of you can read.
You can go ahead, Prabhu. I'll read after you.
Ma'am. Prabhu, please read after you.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
51.
51.
51. 51 says, Devauti Uvacha Saravam Tad Bhagavam Mayam Upo Vaha Pratistrutam Atapime Prupanaya Abayam Datun Ahase. See, Devauti said, my Lord, you have fulfilled all the promises you gave me. Yet, because I'm your surrendered soul, you should give me fearlessness too.
That's right. The slide.
And the slide says that the slide says that what fearlessness to subordinates. One who cannot get free from the clutches of death is dependent. And he should not become a spiritual master, nor a husband, nor a kinsman, nor a father, nor a mother, etc. It is the duty of the superior to give fearlessness to the subordinate, to take charge of someone. Therefore, either as a father, mother, spiritual master, relative, or husband, one must accept the responsibility to give his word. Freedom from the fearful situation of material existence. Material existence is always fearful and full of anxiety.
Thank you. So just as I was saying before, Devahuti is requesting the husband to give her fearlessness. Everyone in the material world is full of fear. And therefore, this gift of fearlessness is very important. So one who cannot get free from the clutches of death is dependent, and he should not become a spiritual master, nor a husband, nor a kinsman, nor a father, nor a mother, etc. It is the duty of the superior to give fearlessness to the subordinate. So, Lord Rishabhadev, in his teaching to his 100 sons, made a statement, very important statement. He says, Guru nasasyat, swajano nasasyat, pita nasasyat, janani nasasyat, daivam nasasyat, patis nasasyat, namokshayat yat samupyahitam mrityum. One who cannot deliver his dependence from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a relative, a father, a husband, a mother, a king, or a worshipable demigod. So this deliverance from the clutches of death, from fearfulness, can only happen in spiritual circles. One who is not spiritually situated cannot offer such fearlessness. One must be convinced beyond all reasonable doubt that one is not this body, and one must be convinced that the Supreme Personality of God, Sri Krishna, is the ultimate shelter of all living entities. One must be convinced beyond all reasonable doubt that by engaging in Krishna consciousness devotional service, I'll be delivered from this material ocean of birth and death. One must be convinced that there is a spiritual world, there is the abode of Krishna, the abode of Lord Narayan, that one can go if we are eligible, if we are qualified. We must be convinced about these things. And once we are convinced about these things, then we become fearless. And we can also offer fearlessness to others. And that is why Lord Rishabhadev is saying that one should not be a spiritual master, one should not be a king, one should not be a father, one should not be a husband, one should not be a mother, one should not be a worshipable demigod if he cannot deliver his dependents from the fear of death, the fear of samsara. So the Mahuti is asking the husband about this fearlessness. So that is the gift. Is the gift. You know how many inside? You know how many inside? You should count. Tear open account before you send it. So the superior, a person in a superior position must be in a position to deliver his dependents from this fear of samsara. So the Mahuti, realizing that the husband is leaving home, he said, my dear husband, you promised me fearlessness, but you have not given me that facility of fearlessness, that gift of fearlessness. And you want to leave me? Please, fulfill your desire. Fulfill your promise. So Prabhupada says that material existence is always fearful and full of anxiety. So the Vaibhava wants to be free from that anxiety. He wants to be free from that fearfulness of material existence. So in the next verse, which is 52, Chitra Ketuputra, you can read 52.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Brahman duhite bis tubiam vimrikya pataya saman kaschit syanme vishokaya twai pravyas chitevanam. Translation. My dear Brahmana, as far as your daughters are concerned, they will find their own suitable husbands and go away to their respective homes. But who will give me solace after your departure as a sannyasi?
Okay, the slide.
The slide. A husband has to liquidate his to the wife.
Liquidate his
It is
debt.
the duty of the husband.
Yeah.
Okay.
This means
A
debt.
husband has to liquidate his debt to the wife.
Yeah.
It is the duty of the husband to liquidate his debt to his wife. The wife gives her sincere service to the husband, and he becomes indebted to her because one cannot accept service from his subordinate without giving him something in exchange. The spiritual master cannot accept service from a disciple without awarding him spiritual instruction. That is the reciprocation of love and duty. Thus, the Vaibhava reminds her husband, Kadama Muni, that she has rendered him faithful service.
Thank you.
Bhagavatam, Canto 3, chapter 23, verse 52. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So the husband has a duty to the wife, just as the wife has a duty to the husband. The wife serves the husband in so many ways. The wife keeps the home together, runs the home nicely, keeps the home, washes, cleans, cooks, provide everything for the husband, give him sex life, keeps her children in her womb, delivers them, brings them up, takes care of them to grow up. All that is service to the husband. The wife is always rendering service to the husband. Therefore, the man becomes indebted. If you have somebody washing your clothes, providing food for you, taking care of your home, providing sexual pleasure, giving you advice, begetting children for you, nursing them to grow up, all that the wife does for the husband. So the husband becomes indebted to the wife. And the only way the husband can liquidate that debt is to award her fearlessness. So here it is said, just like the spiritual master cannot accept service from the disciple without awarding him spiritual instructions. So the spiritual instructions that the spiritual master gives is in reciprocation for the service that a disciple renders. It is a gift of love that the spiritual master gives to the disciple for offering service. So in the same way, the Vaibhava is reminding the husband, Kadarva Muni, that I've rendered so much service to you. Now you want to leave home and leave me alone without giving me fearlessness. You have to reward me a gift, that special gift that will keep me away from fearfulness. And that is the duty of the husband. In Kali Yuga, we don't think about all these things. People just jump into marriage and jump out of marriage without thinking about the consequences, without thinking about the responsibilities, without thinking about this indebtedness. That one is indebted to his or her partner. So, but in a Vedic tradition, these things are catered for. These things are taken care of. The husband knows that he has received so much service from the wife. He knows. And so at the end, he must award the wife fearlessness. And that is the greatest gift one can give to a disciple, fearlessness, to a dependent, fearlessness. So text 53 says, Itavatalam kalena vyatikrantena me Prabhu indriyata prashangena parityakta paratmanaha. Translation, until now we have simply wasted so much of our time in sense gratification, neglecting to cultivate knowledge of the Supreme Lord. The slide says human life is meant to be regulated for a higher purpose. Human life is not meant to be wasted like that of the animals in sense gratificatory activities. Animals always engage in sense gratification, eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. But that is not the engagement of the human being. Although, because of the material body, there is need of sense gratification according to regulatory principles. So the human form of life has a purpose. Every form that we see in the world has a purpose. And particularly that of the human form of life, it has a purport. And that purport is to gain knowledge, is to gain knowledge as to how one can escape this material existence. That is what is human form of life is meant for. So it is not meant to be wasted like the lower species of life. To achieve this human form of life, it is not so easy. One has to go through the 8 million species of life or life forms in order to be promoted to the level of a human being. And if one achieves this human platform only to be wasted, then one is considered a failure. So Maharaj Nimi told the 9 Yogendras. The 9 Yogendras, they are the 9 saintly sons of Rishabhadev. Rishabhadev had 100 children. 10 of them became kings, Kshatriyas. 9 of them became Paramahamsas. And 80 of them became Brahmanas. An interesting development. Rishabhadev was a king. He was a Kshatriya. But amongst his children, there were Paramahamsas, there were Kshatriyas, and there were Brahmanas. His children were divided into 3 classes. Paramahamsas, who were experienced in discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, Kshatriyas, who were experienced in administration, and Brahmanas, who were experienced in the study of the Vedas and distribution of the Vedic knowledge. So it shows that one does not become a Brahmana by birth. It shows that one becomes a Brahmana by qualification. Similarly, one does not become a Kshatriya by birth. One becomes a Kshatriya by qualification. One does not become a Vaishya by birth. One becomes a Kshatriya by qualification. One does not become a Sudra by birth. One becomes a Shudra by qualification. Even if one is born in a Brahmana family, but if he displays Shudra qualities, he should be accepted as such. He should be accepted as a Shudra. So the 9 Yogendras, Nava Yogendras, when they met King Nimi, there was a very wonderful discussion between King Nimi and the Nava Yogendras. And in their discussion, Maharaj Nimi posed a question or made a statement. Dulabo manasho deho dehinam shana bangura tatrapi dulabam manasho vaikunta priya darshanam. So King Nimi, Maharaj Nimi, he was actually appreciating the Nava Yogendras. He was appreciating the association these exalted Vaishnavas, Nava Yogendras, were giving him. He says that for a conditioned soul, the human form of life is most difficult to obtain, which can be lost at any moment. Dehinam Shana Bangura. Shana Bangura means it can be destroyed in 1 second. Shana means destruction. Bangura, a moment. So even though it is very difficult to achieve the human form of life, but it can be lost in 1 second. But even those who have achieved the human form of life, those who had the opportunity to meet the devotees of the Lord, who are called Vaikunta Priya. Vaikunta Priya, those people who are very dear to the Lord of Vaikunta, the devotees, they are called Vaikunta Priya. So when one is able to see the Vaikunta Priyas, Vaikunta Priya Darshanam, one is able to have darshan, to see them, one is most fortunate. So even though it's difficult to get a human form of life, but only those who are able to meet the devotees of the Lord, who are able to meet the Vaikunta prayers, they are considered the most fortunate. That is how fortunate we all are, having come in touch with the exalted devotees of the Lord. Our fortune knows no bounds. Our fortune has no end. Even though sometimes we don't realize it. Just by coming in touch with Srila Prabhupada's movement is a great fortune for a living entity. So the purpose of human life is to associate with devotees gain transcendental knowledge, make an effort to solve the problems of life, and get out of this material world altogether. Material life means trouble. Material life means pain. Material life means friction. Material life means disturbances. And a wise person, he wants to get out at all costs by taking shelter of this process of Krishna consciousness. Text 54 says, Indriyatesu sanjatya prashangastvai me kritaha ajanatya parambavam tatapi astu abhayaya me. Not knowing your transcendental situation, I have loved you while remaining attached to the objects of the senses. Nonetheless, let the affinity I have developed for you rid me of all fear. Association with greatly saintly persons, essential for spiritual advancement. That is a slide. The association of a great saintly person is very important because even if one is not advanced in knowledge, simply by association with a great saintly person, one can immediately make considerable advancement in spiritual life. As a woman, as an ordinary wife, Devahuti became attached to Kadarma Muni in order to satisfy her sense enjoyment and other material necessities. But actually, she associated with a great personality. Now she understood this, and she wanted to utilize the advantage of the association of a great husband. Of course, there's a common saying that familiarity breeds contempt. Because the wife is always with the husband, sometimes the position of the husband is minimized. The spiritual position of the husband is not recognized by the wife. Even sometimes the children also, they don't recognize the superior position of their husband, who is constantly engaged in devotional service, who is studying the scriptures and chanting his japa very seriously. They don't even realize it. So Devahuti is in that class. Of course, she was a very exalted personality. She's described as yoga lakshana, means she's also advanced in the practice of yoga. But she's expressing that she's unfortunate for not taking advantage of her saintly husband's association. Nevertheless, he had rendered service to him. He had associated with him. He has been very intimate with him. And therefore, she had made some progress. But now she wants something substantial so that if the husband is not there, she would continue to be fortunate. So the next verse, which is 55, says, Sangoya samsrite hetur asasu vihito adia saiva sadusu krito nishangantraya kalpate. Very important verse. This is a very important verse, a memory verse. Association for sense gratification is certainly the path of bondage, but the same type of association performed with a saintly person leads to the path of liberation, even if performed without knowledge. So the slide says the power of association. Association with a great saintly person also results in liberation. Just as whether one goes toward fire knowingly or unknowingly, the fire will make one warm. Devahuti expressed her gratefulness for although she wanted to associate with Kadarma Muni only for sense gratification, because he was spiritually great, she was sure to be liberated by his benediction. So Devahuti, at least, he realized or recognized the exalted position of the husband, even though she did not take advantage of the husband, asking some spiritual questions, asking for some philosophical discussion. She never asked for these things. So, but at least she served him, he associated with him. So he is convinced that with his benediction, she would become liberated. So she's asking the husband for his benediction. In text 56, it says, Nihaya karma dharmaya navaragaya kalpate natita pada sevayai jivana pimrito hisaha. Anyone whose work is not meant to elevate him to religious life, anyone whose ritualistic performances do not raise him to renunciation, and anyone situated in renunciation that does not lead him to devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead must be considered dead, although he is breathing. This is a very powerful statement by Devahuti. Everything should be done for the purpose of Krishna consciousness. Everyone is by nature inclined to some sort of work. And when that work leads one to religious life, and religious life leads one to renunciation, and renunciation leads one to devotional service, one attains the perfection of work. Unless one is gradually elevated to the position of devotional service, beginning from his natural activity, he is to be considered a dead body. Work which does not lead one to the understanding of Krishna consciousness is considered useless. In other words, whatever we are doing, the ultimate goal is to become Krishna conscious. Whatever work we are doing, the goal of that work is to make us Krishna conscious. We have to use it to become Krishna conscious. Whatever we are doing, it has to be connected to Krishna. It has to be dovetailed in the service of Krishna so that that work becomes a spiritual work. That work becomes our means of going back home, back to Godhead. We must engage in some work. We cannot remain idle. We must engage in some work. But that work should be connected to Krishna. And by connecting it to Krishna, we can actually become Krishna conscious, and that will take us out of this material existence. That is the goal of Krishna consciousness. In text 57, it says, Saham Bhagavato Numnam Vanchita Mayaya Dridam Yatram Vimukti Dam Prapya Nam Mumuksheya Bandhanat. Translation: My Lord, surely I have been solidly cheated by the insurmountable illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For in spite of having obtained your association, which gives liberation from material bondage, I do not seek such liberation. The slide says, an intelligent man utilizes good opportunities. An intelligent man should utilize good opportunities. The first opportunity is the human form of life. The second opportunity is to take birth in a suitable family where there is cultivation of spiritual knowledge. This is rarely obtained. The greatest opportunity is to have the association of a saintly person. Devahuti was conscious that she was born as the daughter of an emperor. She was sufficiently educated and cultured, and at last she got Kadara Muni, a saintly person and a great yogi, as her husband. So it's interesting. Prabhupada has mentioned in his purport that an intelligent person should utilize good opportunities. First, as a human being, it's a great opportunity. Once we have obtained the human form of life, the human form of life is described as artadam. Artadam. Arta means wealth. Artadam, anitya. Even anitya means temporary. Even though the human form of life is temporary, but it offers a great opportunity, a great wealth. And what is that opportunity? What is that wealth? That we can use this body to understand Krishna. We can use this body to render service to the Lord, to be connected to the Lord. So therefore, an intelligent person has to, an intelligent person has to utilize good opportunities. So the first opportunity is this human form of life. That's the first opportunity. Anyone who has taken birth as a human being is given that opportunity. The second opportunity is to take birth in a suitable family where they are practicing Krishna consciousness. That's the second opportunity. And the last one, and the most important, is to gain the association of the saintly person. So Devahuti is so fortunate. He has got all the three. She is born as a human being. She was born in the family of the emperor Swayambhuva Manu, where she was educated, she was properly cultured, and lastly, she has gained the association of Kandharma Muni, a very exalted devotee of the Lord. So all the three opportunities, all the three boons had been fulfilled. And therefore, she doesn't want to miss the opportunity of going back home, back to Godhead. She doesn't want to miss that opportunity of getting the mercy of Devahuti, of Kandharma Muni. And there's one more slide. It says everything in the material world is being cheated. Now, everyone in the material world is being cheated by droga. And that's the last verse. The last slide. People do not know what they are doing when they worship the material energy in the form of goddess Kali or Durga for material boons. They ask, Mother, give me great riches, give me a good wife, give me fame, give me victory. But such devotees of goddess Maya or Durga do not know that they are being cheated by the goddess. Material achievement is actually no achievement, because as soon as one is illusioned by the material gifts, he becomes more and more entangled, and there is no question of liberation. So it is said that Maya or Durga Devi, she has two kinds of mercy: Sakapata Kripa and what are the mercies of Durga Devi? Sakapata, that is the what is it? Sakapata, Kripa, and Sakapata mercy. I'm trying to remember the Sanskrit of the other mercy. I think Nikapata mercy, Sakapata and Nikapata. So Durga Devi has two mercies, Sakapata and Nikapata. The Sakapata mercy is when Durga awards material benefits. Just as Prabhupada is mentioning here, people are going to Durga Devi and they're praying, dear mother, give me riches, give me good wife, give me good husband, give me fame, give me children, give me this, give me that, give me victory. And Durga Devi gives, but that is Sakapata, is a mercy of that will cover you, is a mercy that would entangle you, is a mercy that will keep you in this material world. So those who are asking for this mercy, they are cheated because they don't get the real mercy. Nirkapata is when Durga gives spiritual guidance, when Durga gives spiritual enlightenment, and that spiritual enlightenment comes with misery. When Durga Devi subjects the living entity to misery, to pain, to difficulty, and the living entity understands that this material world is a difficult place, let me surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is described as Nirkapata's mercy of Durga Devi. So Devahuti is is saying here, she is confessing here in this last verse that she has been cheated. Since she has been cheated. So, maybe it's in the purport. Prabhupada is saying everyone is cheated. It's in the purport, I think. Everyone is cheated. So material existence means everyone is being cheated by Maya. And Durga Devi, and the Devahuti was aware of this. So he's pleading with her husband, saintly husband, to deliver her from this cheating arrangement of Maya Devi. So then these last verses spoken by Devahuti are very important. I think from from 50 thing has messed up. Okay. I think from 53, from 53, 54, 55, 56, and 57. Devahuti has made some very powerful statements that we need to study very, very closely. We need to imbibe, we have to think about them and see how we can take advantage of these words coming from such an exalted woman like Devahuti. Because of these statements, because she approached her husband with this mindset, Kadarma Muni stayed back and gave her a son who was no other person than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kapila Dev. Because Devahuti made such an appeal, spoke such important verses, and revealed her mind, revealed her heart to Kadarma Muni. Kadarma Muni stayed a bit longer instead of just leaving for the forest. He stayed a bit longer, and as a result, Kapila Muni was born to Devahuti. And when Kapila Muni was born, just as the daughters grew up overnight, Kapila Muni also grew up in a very short time. And so that gave chance for Kandarma Muni to leave for the forest. And that is the next chapter. The next chapter is the renunciation of Devahuti. That's chapter 24, renunciation of Kandarma Muni. That's our last chapter for this unit. And so we'll end here. And the next week, we would see, I think that chapter has, it's also a long chapter. It's about 40-something verses. It has 47 verses, the same thing like this chapter, 47 verses. So let's see. There are also some exercises in this chapter. I think I think there are some exercises in this thing. I just want to see whether we can have it ahead of time so that we can think about it before the time comes. Yeah, there's an exercise. There's an exercise. Group exercise. That's the next chapter, the chapter 24 that we're going to end with our unit. So group exercise, 10 minutes for studying verses and purports, 5 minutes for presentation. We have two groups. Group A, Kandharma Muni's prayers to the Lord, verses 27 to 34. Identify points for personal application and make presentation to the class. Group B, Kapila Dev speaks to Kandharma Muni, verses 35 to 40. Identify theological points and present to class. So the class has to be divided into two groups, A and B. And A will take care of group Kandharma Muni's prayers, and B will take care of Kapila Dev's response to Kandharma Muni's prayers. So I think you are how many? Six in the class now? You are 6. So 3. So I think you should write down the verses. Write down the verses. So I have 1, 2, 3, beginning from Salika Prabhu, Chitraketu Prabhu, and maybe Tamal. You take A, and then Madhuvan Prabhu, Jyoti Swarup Prabhu, and whoever is in the class, they can take B. So write down your verses and prepare. Don't wait until the last moment. Then you start reading to present. Read over it, pick the points, and see what you can present. So please do that.
That's against the next class.
Yeah, that's against next week. Maybe it might not even be next week. It might be, okay. It might be this week. We will do the first day. Maybe the second day on Sunday. Saturday will not reach there, but Sunday will definitely reach this place. So it will, against next week, Sunday. So prepare. So on this note, we will call it a day for today.
Thank you very much, His Grace Srivas Vanacari Prabhu, for the time. So I request all the students to unmute. Let us loudly chant Hare Krishna mantra to appreciate our teacher for his time and teaching. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Panchakarpatarubyas Chakripas His Grace Srivas Vanacari Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.